Hello and welcome to another episode of Straight Talk with Roger Hunt Unscripted. Today we have the pleasure with this episode of visiting with Bryce Williams of Williams & Associates and also at one of his locations, Rustin's Place. Bryce, welcome to the show and thank you for being a guest today on Straight Talk with Roger Hunt Unscripted. First of all, can you tell us something about Williams & Associates and those things that you do?
Well, Williams & Associates is a minority community-based organization. We were incorporated 11 years ago with the mission of addressing minority health disparities. Now, what does that mean? That means that we are out in the community educating the community on preventative health education. When we talk about disparities, we're talking about illnesses that, number one, are preventable and that for various reasons, unfortunately, impact African Americans and other minorities disproportionately.
Okay, so what are some of those, when you're talking about preventative health measures, what are some of those preventative health measures that you...
Well, we talk about cardiovascular disease, prostate cancer, some of those things that have to do with nutrition, exercise, diet, also in terms of, especially around nutrition, because sometimes some of the things that we eat that are culturally based in terms of like some of the soul food stuff that we eat, tastes good, but not necessarily may be good for us in the long run.
Okay, so with that being in mind, because one of our shows we're going to be talking to a fitness trainer and expert, so it's interesting that you say that about nutrition and dieting, which is very important, and especially in the African American community. But as far as other race of people, whites, Latinos, Asians, are those people part of your measurements?
Right. As a nonprofit, we provide our services to anyone.
Okay.
But our target, our focus is African Americans.
Okay.
And again, that's because of the disproportionate impact that some of the health elements have on our community. To give you an example of what I mean, when we talk about breast cancer, for instance, white women get breast cancer more than African American women do. But African American women die from breast cancer more than white women do. That's what we mean by disproportionate impact.
So is it a matter to educate our people more, or just to get awareness out there, or what is it that?
That's part of it, but there are several variables that impact how how we respond to disease, and some of that has to do with primarily access. Access around prevention, access around treatment, and also access to care.
Okay.
Yeah, so we kind of fall short, as a community or as a group of people in terms of in those areas. So that's why when because they're saying that if America has a cold, the African Americans have pneumonia. And that's because we tend to be far worse off because of those variables: access, treatment, prevention, that we don't have. So we are impact harder.
But you say lack of access or access to it is just that the people, because I believe that the services are there, and maybe some people would disagree with me that they're disproportionate to other minorities or other race of people, but at the same time, is it because people do not want the help? Or do you, I'm not saying they don't want the help, or maybe they don't know how to seek it, or just ignore the symptoms or the signs, or just, brush it off as just a regular ailment.
Yeah, some of that does have to do with vulnerability, or that sense of urgency that you talk about. Primarily, I think it's because people, in terms of just basic things like insurance, unfortunately, African Americans, Latino Americans, other minorities, we don't have access to insurance. That's why from ACA under President Obama was a good idea, because I think there's like 480 million Americans who are uninsured, and more than half of those are minorities.
And I was going to ask you about the healthcare reform bill and that and everything. So are you, signing people up for that? Or I understand the deadline is March 31st, for people who are uninsured to get insured. And even with that, I understand that there's people who do not even want to participate in the program for whatever reasons. So now that you have access to it, yet there's still the refusability to even sign up for it. For whatever reason, you know, people say that the government's going to be watching me and spying on me, so I don't want to do it, give my information out. I mean, so the access is there whether or not they choose to utilize it or not, but yet you can't force people to, you know, provide certain, you know, give information so that they can't be covered for insurance.
Right. I think that there are several variables that even impact that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we talk about people who are not getting insurance, even though access is there, primarily we're talking about young people who feel invincible. You know, we talk about 20, 25, 30-year-olds, you know, oh, I don't need it, you know, I'm doing okay, as long as I exercise, do what I gotta do, I'll be okay. They haven't really had this idea of, you know, paying a premium and understanding that when you get insurance, that covers everything. Not just when you're feeling bad, but if you break your arm or, you know, or playing basketball and you sprain your ankle, you can get access to care, you know, because you have insurance.
So is that the age, what are, I was going to ask, that's going to be one of my questions, good lead in. So what are the ages that you cover as far as, you know, your services? Is it from the youth and adolescent up to the young adults? Is it adults or? You know?
Yeah, it's young adults and older, you know. When I say young adults, I mean 18 and older.
Okay, so that's when you actually can start servicing them.
Right.
So those who come in maybe to your center that maybe you don't, what do you do with them?
Well, we have partnerships with other organizations
Okay.
in the community, and we make referrals, for those services that we don't cover. Now, younger people, 13 to say 18, can take advantage of some of our prevention services.
Okay.
Because here in the state of Missouri, you can even be tested for HIV without prior permission.
Okay.
You know, so we're able to do that. But for other services, we have to refer out.
Okay. Now, as far as with Williams and Associates, you know, how are you funded to, you know, and kind of provide some of the services?
We are funded by federal, state, and local grants. Purely grant funded. As an agency, we try to do opportunities in terms of fundraising when we can. We also make appeals to the community for support. But you know, we're providing services to a very vulnerable population, and sometimes they don't have that disposable income, you know, that other populations have, you know, to support an effort like ours. They believe in it, they want to volunteer, but they don't have that income to do that. So, working with my board of directors, we try to go out and solidify other funding sources, you know, so that we can have some stability in terms of the services that we provide.
So within the St. Louis metropolitan area, being St. Louis, you know, the immediate East St. Louis, Cahokia, those areas of that nature, Fairview Heights, how far out do your service reach?
Well, we target St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and some of the federal funding that we have allow us to go even further. Wherever like St. Clair County, Madison County, we have partnerships with agencies in those areas. And we're always seeking other funds, you know, to kind of expand and do more.
Okay. So, and those funds can come from not necessarily, you know, private, I guess, private donations as well as corporate donations. Foundations. Okay, so both that'd be a great, you know, with this program, one of the goals is to kind of bring awareness, you know, to some of the things that you do, whereas the state, you know, due to, you know, the federal budget and everything, that they mandate certain monies to be allocated.
Right.
Well, hereby, you know, if you get private donations and corporate donations, that would be a great undertaking that they can help someone else.
Yes, exactly.
You know, with this organization being formed. One of the other things that I want, you talked about another issue, preventative health care, preventative measures with 13 and some even under, but 13-year-old teens, adolescents. And with that, because sometimes I do believe that they think that they're invincible.
Yes.
Sometimes adults think that we are invincible to certain ailments and illnesses as well. Tell us a little bit, before I get to that, tell us a little bit about Rustin's Place. We're going to switch from Williams and Associates, we're going to switch over to it, because it's kind of a dual.
Yeah, Rustin's Place is a program of Williams and Associates.
Okay.
It was something that we started 5 years ago. We were very interested in creating a safe space, particularly for young men, in terms of sexual minorities.
Okay.
By that I mean gay, bisexual, transgender, the focus again being on young men.
Okay.
So in creating that space, we wanted to have an opportunity that those persons could come, access preventative services, find out what other services were available, and address some of their needs.
Okay.
Now the goal behind it was, if we're able to provide a safe space, have a conversation with them, address some of their needs, then we in turn, lower the chances for them of contracting HIV and other STDs.
Okay. And what are some of those needs, man?
Well, some of the housing is a primary one. There are young men who find themselves, say, exchanging sex for a place to stay, which thus increases their risk for HIV and STDs. There are some young men who do what they call transactional sex, something to eat, or a place to stay, or just to have a sense of belonging, because oftentimes these young men are ostracized by their families and friends. So if they can meet or come to a place where they can feel comfortable, being who they are, then we're able to address some of those other issues.
So the housing in the St. Louis area for people like that, I guess they have to qualify or...
Yeah, well, there are youth shelters.
Okay.
I can name a few of them. We have like the Covenant House and, Youth Emergency Services. But working with some of the young men who attended those shelters, we also know that some of those shelters, intentionally or not intentionally, can also be very homophobic, not necessarily safe spaces for them.
Okay.
So our ultimate goal is to, one day develop, such a place that they can, take advantage of having a safe space in terms of getting shelter. Because again, housing is one of the main issues. And housing is a health issue, because if you don't have housing or you don't have a job or employment, then that's going to impact your health.
What about the self-esteem of the individuals that come into your center?
Yeah, we're talking about people who have mental health issues as a result of their environment that they're dealing with, some of the stress that comes with being who they are. Young men who are just really, in need, of some what we call psychosocial support.
Okay.
In terms of building up their self-esteem and that kind of thing. And so Russell's Place is part of that. So it's part of a project we call empowerment. We're trying to empower young men.
So with Williams and Associates, and it's part of and you think about the health disparities and dealing with Rustin's Place and in regards to, I'm more so concerned about the HIV aspect and the exchange of sex for a place to stay, for food, just to get by,
Right.
Does your facility, Williams and Associates, kind of helps offset some of these, with medical expenses? Because I can only imagine that if they're that young, they don't really even understand the medical, like I want to sign up for something, whether it's healthcare reform or not, they really probably don't even have insurance.
Right.
It means of warehouse, you can go ahead and get assistance for that. So, again, a safe haven, a place of information. How can we get the word out? And if they're watching, and by the way, this will be on YouTube. So hopefully, again, what we do here with Straight Talk with Roger Hunt provides a means of information, a source of knowledge, and lead young men and or women, because I'm glad you would take care of the women as well, to get some assistance, because this is an alarming epidemic. I'm just looking at some numbers from the CDC from 2003 to 2012. The number of HIV cases, 5,482. It may seem like a very small alarming number, but in one case of HIV, one person linked to many different persons. This person, that person.
Right.
And then in 2012, there was 230 cases reported. I'm not sure the data for 2013, has been released for now. But just to break down that, you know, in that span, Caucasians 42%, African Americans 54%, Hispanics 3%, Asian Pacific Islanders 5%, American Indian 0, and then two or more other races 0.8%. So the numbers are, you know, with African American, which is very only 54%, and Caucasians at 42%. Those are some very high level numbers. Just like from 2023 to 2012, you know, how do you, you know, see things? Do you see things changing with education and awareness, or is it still, we're still at the same point that we were back then?
Well, I think, because I think one of the things when you talk about those numbers you just mentioned, the key word there is what you just said, report. Because those are the people that we know about. You know, the Center for Disease Control estimates that there are a number, hundreds of people who don't know their status. So we do a lot in terms of trying to get people tested. You know, working through our partnership with the St. Louis City Health Department and with other Eastern organizations, we go out in the community and try to do testing. You know, we have this plan now where we're trying to identify or develop like a testing mobile unit where we can go into the community where people are and really bring the testing to them. Because if we are to see a difference in this epidemic, not only here in the St. Louis region but across the country, it's about everyone finding out what their status is. And then if they find out that they are positive, getting on treatment. Because the treatment advances have been so great that, you know, if we can get people on treatment, get their viral load, the amount of virus in their system lowered, then we can almost eradicate HIV. You know, but it's getting people tested first and finding out who the positives are, and then getting those people on treatment and supporting them so that they can maintain their treatment regimen.
And I guess the person finding out their status,
Right.
What is a normal reaction, or you know,
the stigma to the disease is such that people are reluctant to get tested. Those who do decide to get tested have a lot of anxiety about doing it. I have to admit, though, that with younger people, they seem to be a little bit more open to the idea. You know, we're talking about, maybe because we're talking about a generation that was born into the world with HIV and AIDS. They don't remember a time where it didn't exist. You know, unlike myself and you, who don't remember that there was a time when HIV was not around. So it's become sort of commonplace for younger people, for young adults. So they sometimes, you know, don't have a problem with getting tested and finding out their status. But that's one of our main goals, getting people tested more than anything.
Well, you guys, I thank you so much. I would like to talk to one of the participants that utilize Russell's Place, and also as an employee here at your center. And again, this is a nice facility, and I understand the activities. We have movie nights, some movie nights,
Movie nights,
Christmas parties.
Right. We have, you know, and those are just activities that sort of empower and celebrate, you know, the community, and at the same time, you know, provide the service.